Hey guys, welcome back to episode 6 of Petty Daydreams. I am so happy, guys, to celebrate with me. This is the 6th week of ongoing episodes of Petty Daydreams. Might be a little crazy that I decided to do a weekly podcast. I probably should have done like bi-monthly or something, but it's been so fun getting to do this every single week, especially in quarantine. And just being able to connect with you guys and talk about the different subjects from each episode. So, as promised, this week I have a very interesting guest on. She's actually a friend I had in college, and I haven't talked to her in 5 years since our breakup. At the time, we were living together, and things just kind of imploded. She moved out. I had to kind of scramble to kind of deal with, like, what does this mean? Because it was a very significant relationship to me. I think I'm very interested in this idea of the complexities of female friendship. So today we're going to be talking for the first time in 5 years, like I said. I hope that we can achieve some sense of closure, that I can get her perspective on like where things went wrong. And maybe this will be a first page in a new book, you know, our new story. She's really awesome, guys. I'm going to get her on the line. I'm recording this intro before I even talk to her. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting. Stick around for it. On another note, you guys, we are at 400 downloads and listens in a little over the first month. You guys, every week, like I said, you're the best. You continuously listen. You share it with other people. You give me great feedback. We have great discussions. So keep it up. I'm really excited. So now that we've reached 400, this week I'm going to be kind of announcing the giveaway and kind of the, requirements for that giveaway in order to win this super cool package that I hope you guys like. It's going to be really exciting, but it's a reward for you guys, like constantly pumping me up and sharing the podcast, leaving me reviews. I really appreciate all that you do for me. And I just want to say, I want to say thanks. And give you a chance to win a really cool package with local goods and stuff I think you'll appreciate. Kind of like a little care package from me to you. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to get into the interview with Anastasia. So stick around for that. Okay, guys, so I have Anastasia now on the line after some trouble getting connected to each other. We are officially talking. So, Anna, Yay. It's been a long time since we've even spoken. It's so weird just like seeing you. But it's weird because it's like, I don't know, it feels like not a day has passed. I guess time just feels like it's gone so quickly. But how have you been?
I've been well. A lot of things have happened to me recently, a lot of big changes that have instigated an inward journey. So, in a weird but exciting transition. We can go into that. We can either go into it or not. I don't know if it's a long story. Long story short, big changes. And I'm sure that's for a lot of us, but definitely feeling that right now.
I don't know. Life has fundamentally shifted. It's weird waking up every day because it's like, like after a bad breakup or something, you wake up every day and you're like, oh, this is life now.
Yeah. I hold two truths. I hold excitement and happiness that things are the way they are, and I hold grieving and sadness and anguish and anger that things are the way they are. And I think it's important to hold both of those. It's possible to hold both almost opposing feelings and viewpoints at once. So for what's going on in our country, in the world, in the collective unconscious, and even in my own life, very powerful and symbolic stuff going on.
Well, what have been, you mentioned these fundamental kind of changes in your thinking and everything. So what's happened to you recently?
Recently, I broke up with my long-term 2-year partner, which was really, I'm still processing that and grieving that. And it's not a choice that I wanted to make, but it was, yeah, it was it was time for that to happen. So that's a big thing. I was living on the road with this partner, with this person. We had initially met 4 years ago. We were dating other people, and then we ended up both being single, and then we got into it. And I immediately went from my job. I worked at a primate sanctuary in Newcastle, Oklahoma. I lived on site and worked there, taking care of 82 monkeys with 3 other people, which was cool, but also kind of sad. It's like a monkey hospice. It's quite depressing, but they're doing great work there. My partner, at the time, he wasn't my partner, but he was like, I'm about to hit the road. He's a musician. He's like, I'm about to hit the road, and I'm living out of my van. Like, do you want to come with me? And I was like, yes. So I put in my 2 weeks and lived in a van with him, a conversion van. There was no toilet, no sink. It was very awesome. Learned a lot about resources and dependency on that. 3 months into it, I was like, I'm going insane. I need a house. I need a home. I need roots. So moved back to Norman, Oklahoma, and then lived there with him for about a year and a half. And then December of 2019, I was like, I need to get out of here. So I went to do an internship in December at the Earthship community in Taos, New Mexico, where they're building. Yeah, it was
That's cool.
Yeah, I lived in one, and I was like, oh, this is great. Like, this is the future. So he moved back into his van, and we had a camper gifted to us. And after the internship, we moved into the camper, and then we started hitting the East Coast in January and February of this year. And then March hit, and COVID, and everything's exploding, right? And so we moved the camper to our friend's property in Muldrow, Oklahoma, which is like near Arkansas border. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with somebody without space is really, at first we learned to manage it, but then we were like, oh my God. And then the pandemic and all this stuff.
Are you there? I think you were breaking up for a second. Can you hear me? Okay, you broke up for a second. It was, well, not a second. It was like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it froze. I don't know. Okay.
You were telling me, so you were talking about pandemic hit and then like being on top of somebody all the time.
Yeah. And so we needed space. So I I was visiting my parents in Dallas, and then I ended up staying. And then my partner would come visit me. And one day he visited me in the camper, and there was a bunch of rain. It was like a week of rain, and he got into an accident. Luckily, no one was hurt. But the camper was basically totaled. So I moved fully back into Dallas, and he moved fully back into his van. And because I don't blame him. I don't really like living in Dallas right now. But who cares what I like? I'm fed and I'm sheltered and I'm healthy, so I can't complain. And then eventually we started, I think, drifting apart, especially not having that like physical interaction with each other, just being around each other. And a lot of resentment and ego and projections, and operating from that rather than being open. And I think on a fundamental, we are fundamentally very different. He doesn't like to rock the boat. He likes to, even keeled. And I'm like, let's fuck shit up. Like, I want to like challenge these things. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. So hopefully, everyone's, well, not hopefully, we're all good. It's just sad. So,
Yeah.
But a lot of, it sucks when like you're anchored to things, and to your anchor, to safety and security emotionally, is no longer there. And so you're like, okay. And then you have to decide to rebuild that within yourself. So being in a codependent relationship was I didn't realize it was codependency until like a few days ago. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I was not providing for myself. I was like relying entirely on this person and this idea of my relationship with them. And it was like, well, of course it was bound to not fail, to break off. There's still love and we still want to be together, and we'll see what happens. But yeah.
It's so interesting because I think it was, I don't know, like 3 episodes or so ago when I was recording. Sometimes it's like stream of consciousness or whatever. But I was talking about something basically that like people come into your life and that it's not necessarily like, I think we think of things as, you know, start to finish with like a lot of things. And this is it. That's all it's going to be. But like a lot of people have like a lasting effect on your life. And I don't think it has to be this thing where you have to just like hate somebody or find some reason to like that's societally acceptable to not ever have to talk to them again or whatever. Like you don't have to be that way. And that was like one of those things too. It's weird that I was like, you know, I haven't talked to Anna in like forever. And we were so close for like 3 years or so.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know. I don't really believe that. But I mean, I'm also like, that's a whole thing. Like, I feel like I've changed so much in 5 years, and even in the last 2 years or the last year. But it's like, I feel now, I guess, that you shouldn't just be cutting people off necessarily.
I think the reason why people get angry, it's so ironic. I was talking to my mom about this yesterday. People change and people grow. And if you have certain relationships with people, and you kind of not outgrow each other, but grow in different directions, you can always come back, especially with those profound like exchanges and experiences that are shared. But what's interesting is if those two individuals bring up that baggage of the past, that's when it's like, of course you want to hate that person. It's like, well, if you can like move through that and process that trauma or whatever trauma you were going through at the time, then like, why not leave it up to the universe or destiny or fate or chance to or Instagram or a podcast to catch up, you know? I don't harbor any anger or hatred towards you or our friendship. I was very sad and angry that it ended the way it did, and I'm glad we're able to talk about it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, you know, your former partner, we are both very different. And I think in maturity, I've grown to actually be more similar to you, which is so weird.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah.
Okay, so it brings me to my second thing I was going to ask you. So we recently reconnected over Instagram, and then I was thinking about this podcast. I've thought about you on and off since we were friends. I think it was 2014 is when we stopped being friends. But it was like one of those things where I didn't really like the outcome. I remember being angry that it happened the way it did, but the situation just like kind of imploded. And then it became this thing beyond our control. And so I wanted to use this, you know, this interview, this sit down as a chance to hear from you, your side, and then maybe get a deeper level of closure than just like time provides. Because yes, we've had like a lot of time to like let our heads cool and stuff like that. But I wanted to know how you remember how things turned out. Obviously there's like high emotions running and stuff. We were living together at the time. There's just like so much going on.
Oh yeah.
I want to know how you saw things. I want to hear things from your perspective because we never even really got that chance.
No, we didn't. Okay, so I remember I am not an easy person to live with, and I realized that in the last few years. I remember like you would come home and I had rearranged the furniture and you're like, dude, what the fuck? And I was like, oh yeah, I got like inspired, and you were like, okay. Like I could see you wanted to let and support need for change. I always change shit around in my room and in the house that I've lived at, or houses I've lived at. So like, thank you for support, but you're also like, gotta like let me know this is my space too. And I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't know that. Like I knew that, but I didn't. It was kind of a selfish thing. But I remember our falling out happening. I was dog sitting my parents' dog, Kane, and you were fostering Winnie.
Yeah. Okay.
And You were in the kitchen and I was like giving food to Kane. And Winnie started eating the food and I spanked her. And because I was taught growing up, you either spank them on the snout or the bottom. And I don't know if she's a short hair pointer or I mean you heard the spank. I didn't hear any whining. I didn't hear any like, oh, that hurt. I just heard the slap. And you like were like, what the fuck? What did you just do? I was like, well, I just tried to set a boundary and like establish like, no, you don't do that. I realize now that there's better ways to communicate with animals. So like there's actual communication involved. I didn't know how to train dogs then. And so you rightfully so were, defensive about it. And I was really sensitive to that. And I was like, oh God. And so I realized that it's like, I'm a bad. I just remember like your grandma, I think it was, yeah, who was helping you move out, and some kind of exchange happened and I just started crying because I was like, or I was moving out. And I don't know, I felt like you just like, we were like fed up with each other, and I could tell we were kind of growing in different directions, and I didn't really want that to happen. But yeah, that's how I remember it. How do you remember it?
I totally forgot about the Winnie thing, or Minnie. What's her name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Minnie.
Minnie. It was Winnie, and then I think you named her Minnie.
I don't know, but I totally forgot all about that. But like, it makes so much
She's
sense.
driving right now.
But I totally forgot about the Minnie thing. Even now, I like understand why that was my reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, my family history and stuff, and then like I've been so attached to the dogs in my life. I think I was just like, I maybe overreacted, like I think I remember, if like thinking about this now, I think I remember like yelling at you and getting like really upset. Which I don't know, maybe I'm more callous now or whatever, but I would just like remove my dog from the situation now or whatever. But like, also, I don't know, like we were such close friends that I felt like I had this ability to, I don't know, tell you what to do or like try to influence you in one direction or another. So I think that's why it was like so emotionally charged.
Yeah, it was very triggering for both of us.
Yeah, and I think we were just like fighting about different stuff, like disagreeing about different stuff. I don't know. I like remember we were like fighting about maybe you going out or maybe both of us going out. Like we drank a lot then.
Oh fuck.
Like 4 nights.
Am I allowed to curse? I don't know.
Yeah. So my podcast is explicit because I cannot keep myself from saying the F word, whatever. We were just like not our best. I don't know. We were
growing. That it was normal. Yeah.
And we're drinking a lot. We had very different communication styles. I mean, you were talking about the furniture. I don't know. Like you said, you're hard to live with. I wonder if Peyton thinks I'm hard to live with. My boyfriend that we've been together for like almost 2 years now. Because I still get upset about stuff. Like I want to have control over my environment so badly, I think, as a way to compensate for like all the craziness in life. And especially now with like my OCD and COVID, it's like ramped up super high. I was basically making a problem that was my, like my own inadequacy or my own fault, like having to have such a big control over my environment that I was sharing with you. And so
I think it's justified. I think I mean, this is true for all peoples. I feel like, well, maybe that's not true, but we didn't have the awareness of ourselves then as we do now. So of course we're going to be like creating situations, either consciously or, subconsciously, that house these tensions. So like, I think maybe we both were difficult to live with, and that's okay. Like I remember having more fun with you at that house than it being like problematic or a lot of tension.
I do too. I remember we always had like, even though we're so, you're very like out there almost, which is not a bad thing, like my best friend Tanya, she's kind of out there and like different from me. You know, she's louder than me and stuff like that. She's different from you, but like you're very into new ideas. You'll try anything almost. I think one time you told me you'll try anything once. Maybe you said
Mm-hmm.
that. But like I at the time, and I think in part I still am, I'm just very like I like structure and I like to explore from that structure. And so
Mm-hmm.
we always had like super interesting conversations. We always had great memories with each other. I felt like it was almost like more of a relationship than a friendship, but not
Mm-hmm.
like putting any like other like sexual or like sexual intimacy or anything else on it. It was kind of like one of
Mm-hmm.
those platonic relationships that it's like almost as intimate and close as like a relationship with your significant other. And
Mm-hmm.
so this like I think it created this like incestuousness sometimes too, where like our emotions were just like all over each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I told you I was like thinking about our friendship and stuff and just like remembering things. And it was like I was more able to be emotionally open with you than I really even was with my boyfriend at the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, yeah.
Which you probably, I mean, like I would cry around you. I would
Yeah.
let you hug me and stuff, which I'm not really, even
No,
now,
yeah.
I don't like, if I'm really in an emotional state, I don't want to be hugged or anything. Like I want to be comforted some other way. So it's just like
Mm-hmm.
so interesting that I could do that with you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it
Yeah,
just speaks to how close we were.
I think we definitely, I mean, I think it was fate, karma, the universe, whatever. I think you and I have a special connection that transcends just this earthly life. I think that we nourished each other in ways that we needed to at that time, and we challenged each other in ways that we needed to at that time. And I really appreciated your vulnerability with me because that's how I exist, very openly vulnerable. um, and you're a Capricorn, right? Your sun sign is Capricorn.
Yeah.
That's my rising sign. So I think, yeah, we're a lot more similar. I'm curious what your moon and rising is.
Okay,
Uh,
so I'm gonna pull it up. So we're friends on
yeah.
CoStar.
Yes.
um, Let me see. So I'm Capricorn, and then I'm a Pisces moon, and I'm an Aquarius rising.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're opposite rising signs and you're a
yeah,
Pisces moon. Shit, that's intense.
yeah.
I'm an
So
Aquarius moon. So, but yeah, so we're your sun sign is my rising sign and my sun sign is your rising sign. So I can see why we would get along and how we would clash as well.
so Anna does
um
astrology and she does tarot. I shared some of that stuff on my Instagram story. But so like, what is the significance of our star signs as they relate to each other?
so okay, okay, when people think of zodiac signs, they think of like one sign in particular, which is actually their sun sign or their star sign. So for you, it's Capricorn. For me, it's Aquarius. But really, depending on the exact time, the exact place, location, and date of your birth, you have a whole natal chart. And even within that, so within that, there's 12 different houses that signify different aspects of your life. The first house being, for example, the self, and identity, very like egoic in a sense. And then you have the different planets within those houses, within different signs. You could have your sun sign in the first house, meaning you identify very heavily with yourself, and it's in Cancer. So you're very sensitive and very motherly and nurturing. And then there's also different aspects within astrology and within your natal chart. So if you have like your sun squares your moon, or your sun conjuncts your moon, or your sun sextile your moon, these all mean different things. There's different aspects along with it. There's also like different stars. There's Chiron, which is the wounded healer. There's like a bunch of shit. So people when people, it's funny whenever I talk to people and they're like, oh, I don't really believe in astrology. I'm like, really? Like, have you ever had your natal chart done? They're like, no. I'm like, well, that's probably why, because
Yeah.
it's not something you necessarily have to believe in. It's just like, if you open the newspaper and look at the horoscopes for each sign, of course you're going to relate to all of them, because most likely you have all of those signs, if not a planet in, maybe not all of those signs, but it's not just one thing. And I think that's what throws people off with astrology, and I don't blame them. Like you've got to look deeper into the thing. You can't judge a book by its cover unless that's your mode of operating. Then good luck with that. That sounds like a shitty life.
So that we're
But
so like opposite in our rising sign and then our sun sign. What does that mean? I mean, we're the exact parallel of each other.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm pulling up, I'm going to see. So, okay. So the sun sign, which people think of again as their zodiac sign, is their personality, how they operate in the world. Their rising sign is how they do that. So you're a Capricorn sun, meaning you like things very organized, and there's efficiency, there's pragmatic, there's grounding, an earth sign. And it doesn't mean perfectionism in the like societal sense. It's your version of that. You operate with things being clearly organized in your space. That could look like hoarding or not, but that's just how you operate. Things have a function and a purpose, and you find the ways. You're innovative enough to find the ways in which to make them effective. That's your sun sign. Your rising sign is Aquarius. So again, your rising sign is how you do your personality. Aquarius are very forward thinking people. They're humanitarians. They're kind of aloof to emotions. So they're kind of like, emotions are kind of the bane of human existence. So that's like although they like ignore their emotions, that's a big part of their life as well. So you integrate your efficiency and modes of structure through humanitarianism, through pioneering, through free spiritedness, through innovation. And then how that relates to me, my personality is the Aquarius. So I'm like super out there, like pretty much operating from a different planet, and like looking down and be like, what's going on? Why are we fighting? Not that fighting doesn't need to happen, but idealism and humanitarianism and community. And then my rising sign, which is how I do that, is Capricorn. So very efficient, very effective. There's a purpose, there's a function, there's a place. And not to like necessarily reify things or put them in boxes, but to find the best mode, the best version of that in our lives, essentially, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's very illuminating why we were attracted to each other.
Yeah.
Why we sometimes found conflict the way we did. A lot of immaturity. Really, like now that I'm older, and then like processing the things we needed to process by then to have a positive relationship with each other, because really it was just like the communication broke down, I feel like.
I want to look at what your Mercury is in. So Mercury is the planet of communication. Mine is in Pisces, which very emotive. Not really good at communicating with words, but with feelings. Your Mercury is in Aquarius. Okay. Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, and it's in the 12th house, which is ruled by Pisces. Wow. Okay. We actually have similar communication styles, but I think because we didn't know ourselves well, you're talking about maturity, and also like sometimes similar things repel each other. So
yes, definitely. I love the CoStar app. I think it's very interesting seeing like what's happening with you and everything. And I don't know, I believe in astrology because I think in some sense everything is predetermined. Not in like the Calvinist, like we're going to hell or you're going to heaven, but as in the things that happen in our lives are going to happen with some degrees of possibilities left or right of those. So to me, it makes sense. I think we're all cosmic, we're all stardust, and I think our energy is recycled within the universe. So that's why I think, I think people just hear astrology and think, oh, that's bullshit. But it's a whole other thing. How do you remember us meeting and becoming friends?
Okay, I know it was through Sydney. I know it was through before I joined the sorority. It's so funny when I tell people I've been in a sorority, they're like, "What? No, you're lying." I'm like, "Yeah." And then I got out of it really quickly. I don't remember the exact way it happened, but I remember like being like, "Ooh, that girl's cute. Ooh, that girl's interesting. Ooh, that girl's like fucking powerful. I want to be your friend." And I think we just kind of like attached. We just kind of became attached to each other.
I felt the same way. I just thought you were like incredibly interesting. Like you
Yeah.
actually had something to say. You deviated from the normal path, and you were very resistant too to joining the sorority.
Oh my God, I was so
And then
resistant.
like resistant to like the structure of it, like it was just like a lot of not understanding why things had to be the way they were. Like we were both, I think, challenging
Oh,
what
we wanted
we
to, yeah.
expected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought the same thing. So I was like, I want to be friends with her. And then we
Yeah.
were.
And then we were like,
It was that easy.
yeah.
How would you define friendship?
Oh man. Okay, so I would define it, I guess, in two ways right now in my life. So there's like the egoic realm of self and selfhood and finding identity through the earthly existence. And then there's presence or God or goddess or universe or even a nihilism, nothingness, right? Um, so when it comes to friendship on the egoic or earthly realm, it's sharing space with somebody. It's my humans interacting with your human. We're doing human things together. And it can be ugly, it can be beautiful, it can be challenging, it can be fleeting, or it can be a lifelong thing. On like the presence realm or the spiritual realm or the religious or karmic or whatnot, it's the divine, like your higher self essentially is interacting with my higher self, and our conversations on earth aren't necessarily the wholeness of what's going on in the divine realm, I guess, the ethereal realm, our higher selves. Yeah, that's how I view friendship, and it's a very beautiful. I think it's one of the things that makes being human so beautiful, because you're gaining more consciousness by interacting with others on an earthly level, and you're also gaining your higher self is gaining more consciousness and awareness in that realm with the others consciousness and awareness. So it's just consciousness meeting itself essentially, and communicating with itself, which is so freaking miraculous, I think.
Yeah. We're now in our almost to our later 20s. Do you
Mm-hmm.
feel more of a need for friendship now or less of a need and more self-reliance?
I That's an interesting question. I I know that I have felt so alone my entire life due to my experiences. I have 4 signs in Aquarius, so very much a loner, very much feeling like a unicorn among like horses. So I felt alone my entire life, and I continue to, but I've noticed that now the quality of friendships that I require or that I choose for myself are more reflective of my independence. Whereas before, I like needed friendships to support me in the ways that I wasn't supporting myself. And now that I am choosing to choosing to support myself in those ways, the friendships are just kind of the cherries on top. I do think though that like having a community and having people and having friendships, it shouldn't be an either or thing. And I feel like in our society we are so it's pretty toxic. We reward people who can be self-sufficient and who have drive, quote unquote drive, and are, what's the word, not progressive, productive.
Yeah.
And I think that's why not need friendships as much as you need independence, and why not have those friendships reflect the values of your independence, and release and acknowledge and like give thanks to the ones that have ended and like welcome the ones that come about now. I don't know, does that answer your
Yeah.
question?
No, yeah. I'm just like thinking about what you're saying. So it's kind of like from when we were younger, like even in college, you were using friendship almost as a way to like compensate for things within yourself. But now you're able to like find friendships and seek out friendships or allow friendship or people into your life that really just like more support your growth, but not in as negative a way. Like it's like you are able to do those things for yourself, and so now the friendships are something that just improve your life, which is something that, I mean, I feel like I'm very much like, I don't really want anybody in my life that is going to not necessarily bring me down, because I think some people think like, oh, you know, if somebody's depressed or something, like I don't want to be around their negativity. I mean, I'm probably that person. So to everybody that just understands me and doesn't hold that against me, I'm very thankful for. But like people that are just like, I hate the idea of you know, like somebody has to bring something to you, like
Yeah, that's not friendship. That's
yeah. So a lot of the relationships in my industry, because I'm in real estate, a lot of it is that like somebody wants something from you. And that's like, I think you've been to LA, haven't you?
God, no.
Well, I was at Sundance in January, late January after my birthday. And it's a lot of people from LA, but it's very like networking, but like on a superficial level. And I'm thinking about moving to Los Angeles just because of the opportunities they would afford. But like on a fundamental level, like that just doesn't vibe with me. Like the idea of you have to get something from somebody else to be talking to them. Like I'm very into the whole exploring somebody. Like I feel like that's the point. And I think friendships should be like that. So I think we're both just like, you and I are more discerning now of what, I mean, I think we always kind of were, but like I think experience is a good teacher too. Just discerning of the people we allow into our lives, like in the sense of, are they inhibiting our growth or expanding our growth, that kind of thing.
And it's funny because you kind of have to go through, you have to go through it. Like as much as we want to be on the other side and be the best versions of ourselves all the time, that's not why, like we wouldn't be human if that were the case, right? So like you just got to go through it. That there's no other way.
I mean, that's the human experience.
Yeah.
You kind of come into this world as, you know, a fresh soul. Maybe you don't remember what happened in your past lives, if there are past lives, but you come in and your whole life is just like this learning experience of learning, and learning about yourself is probably, you know, like a lot of poets, writers, authors, whatever, they'll all say that, like to know yourself is the greatest adventure, etc. How they phrase it in all different ways. But it's just like, it's very interesting because, you know, you and I always had these kinds of conversations, like what is meaning and all this stuff. And
yeah. I loved that so much.
I don't think a lot of people really get that deep, that's something I look for in my friendships. Like I know that there's acquaintances and there's people that you don't get as deep with, but like the ones that change your life are the ones that you can have those conversations about. Like you were saying, in your definition of friendship, you know, there's this higher component to it. So do you have a best friend now?
Well, I did, but then we broke up. But I do have other best friends that I had to have some kind of falling out with them too, but we're in contact now. Yeah, I have maybe a handful, maybe less. Definitely my family, and then a friend in Norman, a friend in California, a friend that I'm recently getting closer to. I don't know if I'd consider her a best friend, but like a soul sister, I guess. Yeah.
So you said you had to have those falling outs with people sometime, and then, you know, you came back closer or whatever. So do you think about those people that you used to be close with and like where they are now? Like, you think about me?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. No. I think about a lot. I think about a lot of people that have been in my life and a lot of people that I've been really close with. And, you know, I'm still processing like the pain of that and the grieving of that essentially. And also being like, okay, like, you know, we're all in different places right now. And just because that that closeness, that intimacy no longer exists on the earthly realm, I still feel it in the other realm, right? I can always go back to that, or not back to that, but I can always go to that feeling. And that's much more likely to create a new version of that friendship than what was before, you know?
Yeah. I have this question for you, but I'm going to answer it first. Do you have any regrets about how things happened with us? I was thinking about how things came to a head and stuff, and I just feel like I was extremely unfair with like how I dealt with you. Like I took a lot of things that were different from me that you are, and I like almost held that against you, and I like held on to my anger for longer than I should have. So like I think that's the biggest thing I regret, in that we ever ended our friendship. But maybe that's what was supposed to happen at the time.
Yeah, I don't really regret anything, because like I'm thankful for what's happened. And I mean, I miss that connection, but I also don't miss that version of myself, you know? Like we were both, I mean, we're still so young, but like if I regret anything, it's the fact that I didn't have as much awareness that I do now, and I could have handled it differently. But I mean, I'm totally open to like continuing a new version, you know. I regret any pain and that I caused you, I guess is a good way to say it too.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't go around trying to hurt people, but sometimes it's just a side effect
Good.
of your behavior
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
from like me 5 years ago. I don't know. I think I've always had this like undercurrent of anger and hate within me that I always have to like manage. Like people talk about the two wolves within you or whatever.
Mhm.
I think that's my wolf that I'm always trying to fight, is this like way that my experiences up until this point have made me feel, like almost a resentment towards life. And so
Mhm.
I sometimes let that impact me. And so I just hate that, and we all have moments of we say something we don't necessarily mean, and we just hurt people just to hurt them sometimes in arguments and interpersonal conflict. So I hate that. If I ever hurt you through that experience, I'm very sorry.
You didn't. And I don't want to get off subject, but the point you're making about the two wolves inside of you, I don't think we should punish the mean wolf. I don't think we should try to tame the mean wolf. I don't think we should try and kill the mean wolf. The mean wolf is a friend of ours, and once we learn how to like befriend it, then the nice wolf and the mean wolf can play, and they can dance, and they can have their necessary time. But like I just felt inclined to say that. And also, have you ever read the book Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes?
I haven't. I've heard about it though.
Girl, girl. I'm gonna buy it and send it to you. Oh my gosh.
So what is it about?
So let me read what the Washington Post book world says about it. A deeply spiritual book, she honors what is tough, smart, and untamed in women. She venerates the female soul. So I have a lot of my mom gifted me this book when I was in high school, and I was just like, it's thick. She thick. So I was like, okay, I can't. I'm like, this is intimidating. And then in college, she was like, hey, you might want to read this. And I was like, no, no, no. And like you talk about anger, this like underlying anger and this like hatred towards like the patriarchy and hatred towards consumer capitalism and hatred
Yeah.
towards like these things, and even just like hatred towards myself. And this book is like exposing it's so necessary. There's a time and place for everything, and our society is like promotes like perfectionism, and like fuck perfectionism, like it. Yeah, I just, while processing my anger and hatred, and like especially towards like the Catholic Church, which is what I grew up in, this book is like really helping me process that in a way that is like, okay, I'm taking back my power. Because I feel like we want to kill the anger. We want to like, there's a decision. It's like after a certain point, you're like, okay, I'm tired. This hurts to carry. This anger hurts. and I don't want to carry it anymore, but I don't know what to do with it. So you've got to like alchemize it. You've got to like integrate it. You've got to like find a way to nurture your ego without like being entirely your ego, without entirely being your hatred. So yeah, everybody that's going to listen to this podcast, male or female or non-binary or
Anybody,
yeah,
any person.
any person. Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Just fucking fabulous.
So must read. Well, I'm gonna have to read it
Must.
then.
Yes.
I wanted to know, so what do you think has been your biggest area of growth since I've known you?
Woof. Okay. I man, honestly, just like selfhood and autonomy and choosing myself. And I don't think that that's selfish at all. I
No.
think that's all we can do. And then that's what's going to make the world a better place if we can like, and not a lot of us have those resources to do that. Like I'm very privileged and I acknowledge that. So yeah, selfhood and autonomy.
So has that like influenced like what you're doing now in your life? Like has that growth kind of brought you to where you are? Like, you know, you offer tarot and astrology and you worked with the primates at that center and stuff. Do you think that's all kind of been causal to each other?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think yeah. Definitely. Mm-hmm.
So tell me, what are you doing now? Not like work matters or whatever, but like tell me what you'd want other people to know about like what you're doing currently, your passions, your work, etc.
Yeah. I am in a stage of transition, growth, and alchemy, I think. I think we all are collectively, but it's funny because I went from I was like anti-smartphone, anti-social media, anti all these technological advances, I guess, up until recently. I had a light phone, which was great up until like, I was traveling a lot and I'd have to like go to an internet cafe or a coffee shop to get directions to something using my iPad. And then, on the road, I didn't have internet. And I recently got an iPhone and I recently started an Instagram. It was before I was doing a professional organizing and cleaning business, but then, COVID happened and being on the road, that's not really conducive. So I was like, okay, what am I really passionate about? Well, I'm passionate about tarot readings and astrology, and I'd like to see where this goes, and especially through social media, because I had such a hateful relationship with it. And I think we're all learning to like use social media as a tool and not like a identifier. And some people have mastered that, and kudos to them. I am an open source for a resource for people. Usually people will pay, but if anybody's in a situation where they can't afford a tarot reading, then by all means I will help in the way that I can. I am a student of presence-based living, which I learned what presence is through Eckhart Tolle, which is essentially operating from the no self, aligning with your authentic self, which can recognize your ego and recognize that need for identity and permanence, but not operate from it, because that's basically what all these institutions that are in place, they came from excessive ego, which is literally killing everything to find permanence. My like dream and goal is to build an intentional community out in the mountains, and I think that will happen one day. I'm actually joining a community very soon. I'm moving next weekend for a work exchange in Oklahoma, so I'm really excited for that.
You mentioned creating like an intentional community out in the mountains. We're gonna have to talk about this idea I have. I think I shared it with you a long time ago, but I think I'm going to take steps towards doing it. But it's very interesting, like I think people think there's one way of living. And, like you said, you've always felt kind of alone and lonely. I've felt the same way my whole life. I felt so different. I think the people that feel so different are the ones that come into this world and they only feel alone because we're born into a world that ultimately rejects the way we feel the world should be. Yep. And then we come in and we create social change, environmental change, etc. So we'll have to talk about that.
Yes.
But so what do you think is the most pressing issue facing humanity right now?
Consciousness. If we do not bring awareness into our daily experiences, we are going to continue to police, kill, lynch people. We are going to continue to promote the power structures, which are inherently racist, white supremacist, and Eurocentric. We are going to continue to rape and pillage the planet until we ourselves are killed. We are going to continue to hoard hatred and anger and animosity and shame and guilt for each other and for ourselves. So until we bring presence into our daily lives, which no one else can teach you how to do it. You either do it or you don't, and you have to learn from other people or learn from yourself how that is for you. But until that happens, which I think it is, I think people are waking up and they're making better decisions based off of it. But until that happens, shit's still fucked.
I kind of feel like there's this like global consciousness that we're all tied to each other. And I feel like there's always been this low level pain being inflicted on people. And I think that impacts everybody. Like,
for sure.
Some obviously more than others, they live through it day to day. But like, I don't think, like you were saying, we can really progress until we kind of heal some of these things and rectify them and remake them.
Yeah, like unlearning and then reestablishing what our values are. There's something that Eckhart Tolle describes as like the pain body, and that's like the patterns that our ego clings to as identity, and like, oh, somebody triggers us, we're gonna react to our pain body. We can heal our pain body through different means. There's also like an inherent dysfunction in humans. You look at the quote natural world and you see things they just are what they are. But humans, for some reason, we challenge it on a huge level. So I think that inherent dysfunction within us is our ego, which is again trying to find permanence and trying to find, like, we know we're gonna die. We know that our earthly bodies are gonna die one day, and that's like terrifying. I think maybe to most people. I don't know. You'd think that people who are able to realize that would be like, oh, I'm not going to take life for granted anymore. I'm not going to do these things. But I think you mentioned the global, like, collective pain. I mean, it's the pain of being human, but we can like do something with that pain instead of just perpetuating it into our culture and into our institutions that are literally based and created from that pain. I mean, essentially.
So if you could just speak into existence one thing about the world to change, what would you choose to change?
Does I love you make sense? I want people to, I would love to see people waking up to themselves and choosing themselves. Yeah.
Operating from like a place of being loved.
Yeah, which is really hard. That's not an easy thing to do, especially in the culture we're grow up in and that we've perpetuated for thousands of years. Like, if I could speak anything into existence, I'd say I love you. And if I could change anything with that, it would be supporting people in that, with that love, and helping them fight for justice and helping them fight for equity and helping them fight for real change, real revolution, real solutions.
I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah. I'm curious what you would speak into existence.
I don't know. I think it would be in a similar vein. I think it would be something like to make everybody feel loved, because I think that would solve a lot of the problems. I think a lot of us are in some kind of unfinished healing from the trauma of life. And so if we were able to just make everybody feel loved, I don't know that there would be war. I don't know that there would be this idea of capital, ruling life. Because I think what we're doing is we're seeking something outside of ourselves. And it causes all these negative effects and it causes positive effects too. I think the positive would stay and the negative would be gone if everybody just felt on a whole like they are lovable and they're loved.
I think the negatives would be less traumatizing and like literally killing. I think it would be like, I don't know, this is probably really foolish and I'll probably regret this saying this, but it'll be like, what do you want to eat today? Well, I don't know. What do you want to eat today? Well, I don't know. What do you want to eat today? You know, like, or like, man, you know, I'd really like to like go out to the river, but I have to stay here and like, you know, sow the land, or it wouldn't be like, I'm going to fucking kill you because I hate you. You know, it'd be like, it's
Well,
like, okay.
it'd be disagreement versus
Literally
full-scale
killing.
conflict.
Yeah.
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 And violence and hatred, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if there's one thing that you want others to know about you, what would you like to tell people about you in this time and space?
I am learning and I'm growing, and I'm thankful for everybody, regardless of whether they treat me like nicely or not. And I mean, it's not about me, but I guess in this podcast, it's kind of about me. I don't know.
Yeah, take some time to tell people about you.
Yeah, I am learning, I am growing, I am excited, I'm in pain, I am wanting to build community. So y'all, if you guys want to build a community in the mountains, it's earthships and beautiful
Call
things
us.
in the future, let me know. Yes. And it's so funny because I don't want it to be like this like grungy, dirty like thing. It's going to be like pretty chic. I do like luxury and elegance and beauty. Like I like aesthetic, yes, but it doesn't have to come from evil things. So yeah, I am learning, and I'm really happy.
Good.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to reach out to you about tarot or their natal charts or anything like that, where can they find you?
So on my Instagram at look_to_yourself. I also have a website, looktoyourself.com. And my email is Anastasia Maloof at looktoyourself.com, which I'm sure maybe you can get my email through my Instagram or through my website.
Yeah.
So.
If you're confused about how to spell that, I think I'll put it in the show. I'm going to put her name in the show notes, so that should help you out a lot.
Okay, cool.
And her Instagram is great. She's always sharing different resources and stuff, and it's a good place to follow if you're wanting to kind of challenge yourself on a daily basis, like in your thinking, your thoughts, and everything like that. And then you can also so you don't have to be in person for this stuff. She can offer you tarot or your astrology needs virtually, because that's a big concern also. Is there anything else you want to say, Anna?
Thank you for having me. Thanks for this was such a fun. I was nervous. I know you were kind of nervous, but I'm really glad we did this, and I'm glad that you provide this resource as well. And thank you everyone for listening. Yeah, I love you guys.
Thanks for being on here. I know I kind of like told you I have this crazy idea. What do you think? And you've been so gracious about it. So thanks for coming on here and talking. I just really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll be in touch, obviously. And if you want to get in touch with her, I'll leave all kinds of stuff on the Instagram page. So if you want to connect with her, I highly encourage it. She's really inspirational. I really enjoyed having you on today. And like I said, I'll be in touch with you hopefully continuously after this.
I hope so too. Thank you, Bobby, for having me.
No problem. Okay. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Wow, guys, I really couldn't have expected anything better from that interview with Anastasia. If you have a friend, and I've asked this a couple times this week, but if you have a friend that you wish you were still connected with, maybe you broke up for some reason, maybe, you parted ways, it's worthwhile to reach out and talk to them again. Because some people are meant to be in our lives in a more substantial way. And a varying closeness is part of a lot of our friendships and a part of our relationships. As she said, you can go follow her on Instagram. You can connect with her there. We actually chatted for a while after the phone call, kind of caught up a little bit more than we did within the show. And she's going to be doing a tarot reading for me, which she used to do those for me in college, but It's going to be interesting. She said she's changed a lot of the things she does for her readings now. Reach out to her, guys. She definitely has one of those connections with the universe where you're going to get something out of it. And tarot and astrology is about this idea of exploring from within and exploring yourself within the greater universe. So let's head on over to the advice segment. We're going to be responding to some feedback I got in my anonymous form, and we're also going to be talking with somebody who wants some recommendations for how to grow on social media, which is a little bit different than the advice I normally give, but I'm definitely going to give you some tips and stuff that anybody can use. So I hope you stick around for that. Okay, guys, welcome to the advice segment. So I'm going to start off by addressing some feedback I got in my forum and kind of clarifying what I meant in a specific comment in terms of the long distance relationship advice that I gave last week. So let me read it for you. So it says, you should definitely consider talking to someone who's been in a long distance relationship on your podcast. Saying that you have to be engaged or married to make long distance work is pretty disappointing and frankly ignorant. A long-distance relationship is built totally on trust and intention because that's all that you have, whereas a normal relationship can be built solely on convenience or sex or just having someone to get drunk with when you're bored. Just because you can't imagine that kind of commitment doesn't mean it's less valid. So first of all, let's walk this back a little bit. I appreciate that you're giving me feedback, and I appreciate that you're trying to call me out for what you think was ignorant advice. When I said that, I really meant that those are things that really help solidify the chances of a long distance relationship working, being effective, and providing the things it needs for both people. So I agree with you. A long distance relationship is built on trust and on intention, and normal relationships are no more valid than anything. I've done long distance before, so if you want to talk to somebody who's been in a long distance relationship, I've been in one. So some of that was coming from my own perspective. I can't imagine that kind of commitment. I'm just saying that for a lot of people, it really helps to have some kind of formality put on the relationship. But even then, some people that are married, they'll do long distance and they end up getting divorced, or sometimes they're married and they end up making it work. So nothing I say is the end all be all for how things have to be or work. But I wanted to clarify that I don't think you have to be engaged or married. I just think those are factors that increase the likelihood of the relationship staying together and being successful for both people. Thanks for giving me your feedback. I do appreciate it, though it's not the most positive feedback. But I appreciate that you took the time to message me. And if you want to continue this conversation, you can send me an email. I'm not going to get angry with you or call you out or anything. So I'm going to give 5 quick tips for how to grow on social media, because the interview portion of this episode was about 50 minutes or so today. So I have 5 things. If you're just getting started in content creation, maybe you have a small business you want to get on social media, maybe you want to do some modeling or fashion influencing, something like that. These are 5 things that anybody can apply. So one thing I tell all my clients and anybody that asks for advice is, number 1, consistency. So if you have specific content, a lot of people talk about, you need a filter that you use on everything to make a cohesive feed. Maybe you need to talk about the same things all the time. Maybe you need to have a same general message. So basically, consistency is favored by the algorithm. So when you're posting frequently, so maybe you post the same time, or not the same time, but the same amount of days every week. Or maybe you look into your metrics and you post at times that have been favorable to you in the past, which if you're just getting into this, analytics are a whole other aspect of this whole content creation, digital marketing, etc. So being consistent is key. So you want to be keeping your image consistent, keeping your content consistent, and consistently posting. Those are the 3 things. Secondly, I would say if you want to grow on social media, you've got to get into the analytics. So, your first phases really are kind of an experimentation where you are looking for things that are working, that are reaching audiences. Maybe it's your hashtags, maybe it's specific topics that you discuss, maybe it's a certain look. So take the things that are working for you and do more of that. A lot of people actually recycle their content, and that is also a good way to save time and be more efficient in your content creation. Like I've said before, this is a full-time job. Influencing looks easy, but there's actually like so much that goes into it. My third tip would be to outsource the things you're not strong at. So things that aren't a strength to you, go ahead and hire somebody to do those things, or search within your network if you have like financial limitations. Look within your network for people who would like to trade something with you. So maybe they want to do some cross promotion where they give away your product or they do a photo shoot for you, etc. But like things like photography, if you're not the best photographer, maybe you're not the best editor, outsource those things. A lot of people actually outsource the editing of their podcast and the publication of their podcast. You wouldn't think it'd be such a big part of the process, but some people don't have time for it, or maybe that's not their strength. Maybe their strength is just sitting down in front of the microphone and recording what they're thinking. My fourth tip was I'm on 4. My fourth tip would be to be organized. So this means either using a free software, online software like Later app, using that to schedule your content, or you can do it the traditional pen and paper, or you can just make a list on a Google Doc, something like that. Being organized and having a plan will get you really far. And that will also enable you to see gaps in your content or things you need to be doing. My fifth tip for you in growing your social media following is to never be afraid to network. So, with that, I mean that never be afraid to like just send a DM to somebody or send an email. Even doing courses with people is like a really helpful way to have access to somebody who is an influencer who has been doing this longer than you. Ask questions, see what's working for them. If they don't respond, oh well. Get in some Facebook groups of content creators. If you have questions about where those are, send me a message. And this encompasses everything. You know, no matter where you are in your journey of being a content creator or getting a bigger social media following, all of these things can, encompass what you're doing. So podcast, fashion influencing, writer, etc. All of these things are just how it works. So my final thing I guess I'll say is a little tip is to always be researching. So things can change pretty frequently in Instagram, Facebook, etc., TikTok included. So research what's working and what's not. And that will kind of get you on the way to growing your social media following. As a reminder, guys, I give advice as if you were my best friend sitting right across from me. I may not always give advice that you necessarily agree with, or maybe I'll say something that, you don't agree with. So give me the feedback. Let me know what you're thinking. I can give advice on all kinds of things, like I just gave advice on growing your social media following. Send me a message. Send me an email at pettydaydreams@gmail.com. I have a link to my anonymous advice form on my Instagram, and just connect with me. That's the whole thing, is building this community and building something that's positive for all of us. So next, I'm going to go to the hot takes, and I've got a very interesting thread to share with you that I came across on Facebook. So, it's going to be juicy. Okay, now we're back with the hot takes, which I told you I'm going to say it's in a really weird way each week until I find something better to do, I guess. But I have something from the land of beauty, the land of scholars, the land of the highest intelligence you can find anywhere, engaged in vigorous discourse. I've found it, guys. So this was from Facebook, and there's a few of them. But guys, this is something. It is wild. I cannot believe it. So this is coming from a Facebook group from my old town, Georgetown, Texas. That's where I went to high school, 1 year middle school. And so there's a lot of varying opinions in this group, honestly. So there's anti-maskers, pro-maskers, anti-Trump, pro-Trump. There's all kinds of people in this group. But somebody posted, just came home to this in Old Town, ... It's a fence that says, fuck Trump. There's something else written. It looks like some symbols, but like can't even really tell what they are. It looks like circle with an X through it. I don't know. But anyway, the comments are where the gold is. So 136 comments. Somebody said, this is a red state. If you came from a blue state, why did you leave? Go home. And then somebody responded underneath them saying, yeah, go home, MAGA. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And then I'm going to say some of these comments people left, but then I'm going to talk about it. Somebody else said, if I ever see these fuckers, I will get my leather belt. Somebody else said, I'm so offended by this word and all other graffiti, especially on private property. I declare a NSZ, no spray zone, all over America. Sorry this happened to you, you deserve better. Somebody said, well, they obviously couldn't spell 401k, so this is all they had. Somebody said, the social justice warriors at work, ... They used to be called miscreants. Somebody responded to them, I call them shit asses. I would find them. Those precious sweet little dumplings need their ass tied to the whipping post. Wink. My God. So, first of all, is this like a new thing on the far right to be like obsessed with spanking people? Does that explain a lot, like this corporal punishment aspect of their upbringing, that they think in order to solve the most pressing crises of our generation, you need to spank somebody? Oh, wow. So if you guys see any spanking comments out there in the wild this week, please screenshot and send to me. If this is a new thing, I think we all need to be aware. So next time you guys disagree with me, I'm going to bend you over my knee and spank ya. Oh my God. I hate that I even just said that. That's all I have for you guys. Thanks for sticking around. I know this was a longer episode. It was a meaty episode. I hope it brought you a lot of meaning. The talk with Anna was maybe my favorite part. The spanking, maybe my second favorite. Just connect with me. Send me an email. You can find me on Instagram, Petty Daydreams. Send me a message on there. Just take a screenshot when you're listening. Leave me a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Radio Play. I don't know. There's all kinds of different places I'm found now. I'm found on Stitcher, which is a pretty popular podcast host, right? Let me know where you're not finding me if you're having any issues. I'm here for you guys. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for, listening week after week, for giving me feedback, for talking to me. I cannot wait to bring you guys on next week. I'm going to be announcing more about that soon. And also, I'll be giving you details about the giveaway soon. So thanks for listening. As always, stay petty. I'll see you next time.